Show us you got New England pride. Show us you've got New England pride. Stand up, shout out, show us you got New England pride. Show us you've got New England pride. New England pride.
Hello and welcome to another episode of New England Pride TV. I'm your host, Dale LePage, and this show marks our 1-year anniversary. So happy birthday to New England Pride TV, and thank you for all the love and support you're showing us. We're going to jump right in with Pride Pet segment. Okay, I had a wonderful time meeting with Melissa and Marissa at the Animal Shelter Incorporated of Sterling, Massachusetts. It's a nonprofit organization formed in 1988. The shelter's a no-kill shelter with no time or age restrictions, and I love that. They exist to provide humane sheltering and high-quality medical care for strays, unwanted, abused, or neglected animals, and to find loving, lifelong homes for these orphan pets. They also offer low-cost spay-neuter services for the public. Every week, they get in a new shipments of pets, and last week, they adopted out over 26 pets in just one day. So we're so proud of them and for the great work they're doing. If you'd like to find out more about the Sterling Animal Shelter, you can reach them at 1-978-422-8585 or just Google them like I did. We'll be back right after this.
New England Pride TV is brought to you by the Hanover Theater for the Performing Arts, Remax Vision, Bay State Savings Bank, Safe Homes, Cruise Planners, Paul Chasen Interior Design, Nuovo Restaurant, S. Bergman's Consignment and Gift Boutique, Dr. Frank P. Fetchner Plastic Surgery,
We are back on New England Pride TV. I'm here now with the amazing, wonderful, handsome, dashing man himself, Mr. Brian Bishop from OutVets. Welcome, Brian.
Thanks so much, Dale. It's great to be here.
Now, we had you scheduled months ago to be a guest, and you came down with the flu, and then I came down with the flu, but here we are today, and we've pushed through it. And we are so happy to have you here because OutVets has been in the news recently. Is that the best way to say it? In the news?
Yes.
It's exploded, actually.
It has exploded.
It
actually has.
Before we get to that part, why don't you tell me and our viewers at home a little bit about what OutVets is?
Well, OutVets is an organization that honors the service and sacrifice of LGBTQ veterans, their families, and their allies. That's the mission statement.
Okay.
Basically, what we do is we provide a safe, welcoming environment for LGBTQ veterans, anyone who wants to work with veterans, who has a passion for working with veterans, to come together to ensure that no veteran is left behind. One of our taglines is "Welcome Home."
Love that.
You find a lot of veterans, especially in the LGBTQ community, who were either forced out of the military, discharged under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, or any other discriminatory law, or just didn't feel like their service was respected. And that's what OutVets is about. It's to look at that one veteran in the shadows, and draw them out and say, hey, there's a place for you here where your service is going to be honored, where you're going to be honored as an individual, as a human being, who basically raised their right hand to join the military, to serve our country, to support and defend the Constitution. A Constitution, by the way, which didn't protect you. So that's what I call the epitome of courage, is someone who would be willing to do that. Now, our Vietnam veterans, it's even worse because most of them were drafted. So when you're talking about, veterans who served in the battlefield or served in difficult conditions and then were summarily discharged just because they happen to be gay. It's ridiculous. And so our organization brings that together through the generations and says, it doesn't matter. You know, we are not gay veterans. We are veterans who happen to be part of the LGBTQ community. We are veterans first because we served our country, and we should be given that dignity and that respect that goes along with doing that.
Bravo. Now, my next question for you is, I'm assuming that you are the creator of this organization?
I was a founder. I had 3 other guys, we call ourselves the Founding Four, basically, who came together. Myself worked with now Secretary Francesco Urena, who is the Secretary of Veterans Affairs for the Commonwealth. He was my boss as Commissioner of Veteran Services in Boston. And he knew that, you know, there needed to be an organization for LGBTQ vets. And after 2014, when we didn't get into the St. Patrick's Day Parade again, he said, it's time for your organization to be born. So
So that was the catalyst?
That was the catalyst.
For you saying, it's time?
I've been wanting to do it for 20 years. I mean, since I served 20 years in the Air Force, I wanted to hopefully see something like that in my lifetime. I didn't think I'd found it. I didn't think I would be the person who would be going out and, you know, preaching the sermon on it. But I'm glad that I get the opportunity to do it, and I'm glad to see the organization starting to move forward, which is very important because we've been around since 2014.
Now, when you started it in 2014, were you met with, well, when I started this show, this is our 1-year anniversary show, by the way.
Happy anniversary.
When I started the show, I was met with mixed concern and a lot of support, but it was mixed. Were you met with the same thing, or was it mostly support? Or
it was mostly support.
Okay.
We marched in our first parade was Boston's Veterans Day Parade in 2014. So first LGBT veterans organization to actually march in that parade, a lot of press. That's what drew out.
You made history.
Made history.
You made history.
That's what drew out the St. Patrick's Day people. And it was just
drew them out to reach out to you, or?
Yes,
Wait
but
a minute.
it wasn't the council. It wasn't the council.
Who, all right.
It was
okay,
it was an individual who lived in South Boston, who knew the council, who lived there his entire life.
Yep.
And he's the one who got that ball started. His name's Bobby Monahan. He's an amazing guy. He does nonprofits in South Boston. He knew these guys, so he's like, the time is now. So he started it, and you know.
So thank you. So thank you,
Bob Monahan. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And Brian Mahoney, God rest his soul. Brian Mahoney was the commander of the Allied War Veterans Council at that time, and he swung the deciding vote to get us in that parade in 2015.
Now you marched in 2015 into the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Boston. Okay.
Yep.
2015.
Yep.
2016.
Yep.
2017
was a little bit different. We went back to the same thing again. We were excluded. It all had to do with this.
It had to do with your rainbow flag?
Yeah.
It all had to do with that?
It all had to do with that.
All right. You got to tell me a little bit about that. I mean, did you just go in berserk and say, what the hell?
Basically, this was during what we call now the South Boston crisis, which started on March 6th.
Okay.
They wanted to tell us our application was late, which we knew that was BS. So then they sat down and said, well, we told you last year that the Catholic Church has an issue with this. And I'm going, what about it? It's color.
Yeah.
You know, it's 7 bars of color.
But you marched 2 years prior.
Yeah, exactly. Same uniform, same banner, same flag, the whole 9 yards.
All right.
And so we're like, okay, what is this? What the hell is this? And he says, well, you know, the code of conduct says you can't march with anything that depicts sexuality. And I'm like, does this make you hot?
Yeah.
I'm seriously, I was like, this is not sexuality. This has nothing to do with that. This is diversity, inclusion.
It's a symbol of inclusion and acceptance.
Absolutely. And I told him, I said, you want to bring the church into this? I said, I'm an old Southern Baptist man. Let me tell you right now, if God can put a rainbow in the sky for hope for his people, I can put this on my jacket as a sign of inclusion.
I just got goosebumps right now. Thank you so much.
So that's actually it. I said, that dog don't hunt.
Yeah.
So now what we have to do is we have to change the mindset, and we did. The parade organizer sent me an email the day of the parade, and after we got in, after all the fighting, he said, you helped me to see something I never saw before.
Love that.
And so when you do things like that, it's amazing. So it's, but the organization is moving forward. It was almost dead, and now
it's thriving.
We're over 300 members, and
there are so many viewers at home right now who I'm sure will want to find out more about you. before the end of this segment, which is coming to a close, please look into camera 1 and tell them how they can get more information on.
For more information on OutVets, you can go to our website, which is outvets.com. It is under construction right now, but you can still sign up for a membership. And also check out our Facebook page. I try to update it every single day. And we've got a lot of great things going on right now. One of them's a teaser, is that we just inducted our first trans commander, who happens to be a part of the Israeli Defense Force. We will be opening up an OutVets chapter in Israel next summer.
All right. We'll be back with more New England Pride TV right after this. High five. That was amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
Hey Dale, it's me, Miss Lady Sabrina, and we're back with another letter. Let's see what they have for us today. Dear Lady Sabrina, I am a lesbian and I just met this great woman. She's super funny, runs her own business, and is simply beautiful. We laugh all the time and enjoy each other's company. She's 28 and I'm 23. Now this is where I get confused. She has a daughter. In a past relationship, I had a stepdaughter. My ex had a little girl who was my world. When we broke up, I was devastated. I wasn't allowed to see my stepdaughter. My fear is the same thing. I don't want to get close and risk the empty feeling of losing that bond with that child. I really like her. Our personalities mesh so well together. I don't want to miss out on a great opportunity because of the past. What should I do? Sincerely, D. Well, D, I completely understand where you're coming from. Getting into a relationship with a partner that has a child always adds layers of difficulty. You know, it sounds like you're in a great relationship and have a great possibility to be a wonderful stepmom. You know, with that said, here's where the rubber meets the road. You know, we all have baggage from our past relationships, and it's our job to manage our own. You know, we all need to reconcile our past relationship baggage, and now it's your turn. You know, that relationship ended for a reason, and if you had been allowed to continue with the child from that situation, think of how that would have looked today. You know, your ex and new stepmom sharing visitation with you, and how would you emotionally have dealt with that? You know, I can tell you are a feeling person, and trust me when I say, you know, having all the responsibility and no control would have driven you nuts. Just like driving a car, you have to get out of the rearview mirror to see where you're going. And right now, there's a little girl that needs your love and attention. Don't let a failed relationship stand in the way of your own happiness. Allow yourself to give, love, and receive it. Everyone in this situation deserves to have all parties emotionally all in, including you. You know, after a time, if you find the situation is still an issue, then I would seek out a professional for some family counseling. You know, having a biological child is great, but having a non-biological child, you know, choose you, is a gift. I hope this finds you well. Love and light.
Welcome back. We are joined now with Dr. Kenneth Peterson, who is here to talk to us about the LGBTQ health in our community. So welcome.
Thanks.
Now, I have stayed up all night long trying to think up interesting or questions that might make me sound smart. So bear with me. I hope you approve. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay.
Great.
First question I have for you is, how healthy are we as a community?
So as a community, we're pretty much in line with the rest of society in terms of health problems. I think we
Okay.
could probably pull out a few specifics. You know, we in the LGBT community, as we know, have been challenged by certain sexually transmitted infection concerns, specifically HIV and AIDS. Now we see a lot of the more common sexually transmitted infections at higher rates for our community as one of the key health issues. Certainly some of those can be more lethal than others, and some can be fairly common and treatable, but we don't want to be the ones that have higher rates of those. We tend to see a few more chronic illnesses in the LGBT community in terms, and it's probably related to some of the concerns that I think we'll talk about in a few minutes that that make us struggle a little bit more in terms of taking better care of ourselves. And then the behavioral health, mental health issues, I think, are really probably the ones that we see higher incidences of.
I was gonna touch on that too, because it's so important. And now, what is most important, in your opinion, what is most important for the LGBTQ people to know?
Yeah, I think that we really need to recognize what some of the causes are of our health concerns. Certainly, as we know currently in our world, that the policies and the politics are...
there's a lot of anxiety about that,
Yeah, I mean, we've always had challenges as a society, and the LGBT community in particular, around issues of access and quality, and those that are really related to things like health insurance and sort of the larger health policy concerns in our world and community.
True. Yes, absolutely. What is the medical community doing to improve health for LGBTQ people? What do you think that?
So if we think about the concerns, we know that stigma, discrimination, the political environment, the healthcare policy environment as the challenges, the medical community is finally starting to recognize that these are the areas that we need to address. If we have individuals, patients who come into our environments that have been stigmatized, we have to learn to recognize that those things exist.
Absolutely.
Right, if I'm taking care of an adolescent patient that is challenged by living in a high stigmatized community or being ostracized by members of their community, or even sort of being disowned by family members, I as a provider have to...
And we've both seen that.
Right,
yes,
it's a huge problem actually. And so the medical community really needs to pay attention to that. And so what we're trying to do, and I sit on the side of the provider and the side of the academics working at UMass Medical School, we are really trying to get the providers of the future to be aware of these concerns and the issues, and also become a better care provider, because a lot of it has to do with just the intimate relationships that patients have with their care providers, and allowing patients to sort of be who they are and take away all of that stigma or that discrimination, so that health can sort of, grow from that relationship.
I have a little side question for you, and there's a story behind it. Are there any kind of programs, are doctors given classes to deal with people of the LGBTQ community?
Yeah, we have, in the past we've had not too many, but I think now nursing schools, medical schools, schools that train other care providers are starting to introduce programs into the curriculum. In our local community here in Worcester, we have, we're working hard both on the academic side and the clinical practice side to have trainings to start to get providers to provide better care. And the whole movement around diversity and inclusion in our academic environment is really working to help people see the unconscious biases and the assumptions and all the challenges that we bring to the relationships with our patients that have to be addressed in order for us to...
Absolutely. It's so important for, I think, people of, well, everybody actually, to find a doctor that understands your needs and is sensitive to your needs. I have a real quick story, and I won't take up too much time, but I remember one of the first doctors I went to when I had moved from my house when I was young. I had gone to him for about a year and was referred to another doctor who was, let's just say, more accepting. And I went to my prior doctor to get my files so I could bring them to the new doctor, and I was handed a huge folder, just a white folder, and in red, thick, blunt magic marker was written homosexual on it. And I was given that, and I just looked at that, and I went out in my car and I just cried. and we've come so far. We've come so far, and you're making great strides. I understand that you're starting an advisory committee.
Yeah, so the work that I've been doing in the community in Worcester, from the med school and from the practice side of things, we've learned from our local community that we need to do a better job in taking care of LGBTQ people, particularly transgender individuals. The health of transgender individuals is really dependent on access to medical care and the services that we can provide. And so we have to attend to the issues, just as you discussed, in terms of helping folks and not labeling. And so we decided that one of the best ways to do that was to get the community involved. And so currently in hospital and healthcare environments, we have these councils called Patient Family Advisory Councils, or PFACs. And in Massachusetts, it's a requirement of hospitals to have PFACs. There are PFACs for the neonatal ICU, there are PFACs for the pediatric ward, for different practices, and we've decided to establish a Patient and Family Advisory Council for the LGBT
Now, are you
community.
looking for people to reach out to you to become part of this? Or?
We are.
And how would our viewers at home get
So
to?
Patient and Family Advisory Councils usually are made up of folks who are patients in that healthcare environment, or families of patients in that healthcare environment. So we're looking for volunteers to help with this work so that we can get it off the
We've
ground.
come to the end of our time for our segment, but how would they maybe reach out to find out more about this?
So the best way probably is to reach me, and you can reach me at my email at the med school, kenneth.peterson@umassmed.edu. You can certainly find me on the UMass website as well, and through the Diversity and Inclusion Office at UMass Medical School as well. I am the co-chair of the LGBTA group there as well, and so that's another access point for me.
I'm very proud of you.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming in today. We'll be back with more right after this. And now it's time for the part of our show we call Out with Joe. But before we begin with the Out with Joe segment, which is done by Joe Mangicotti and the ever-lovable Teddy, we'd like to make everyone at home aware that this episode of New England Pride TV is dedicated to our friend Greg Gustafson, who recently passed away, and our hearts go out to his husband, his family, and all of his friends. And there's also a wonderful thing happening with a scholarship fund with Greg's name.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'd like to announce that the Safe Homes organization, we voted on the board, and we've decided to go forward with a scholarship in Greg's name.
Beautiful.
So this scholarship will be awarded. We're going to work the details out, but it is being announced also at the Safe Homes Gala happening this month in May, and we will work on it all year long, and next year we'll award the first scholarship in his name, in the criteria and all of that will be worked out. But it's wonderful news.
That's really good news.
So, yeah.
So now it's time for the Out with Joe. What do you have for
Absolutely.
us?
I got to tell you, Dale, this was fun.
Okay.
This month we traveled to Fitchburg State University and their Gay Straight Alliance, and we hooked up with the director of it, the advisor of it, and the kids. And of course, they do this annual drag show and race,
Which is huge.
which is huge. It's the biggest event of the year.
Yeah.
They do things all year long, but biggest event of the year, they pull 4 or 5 guys out of the audience. People vote on who they want to see. The queens take them out back, dress them all up, and make them do their thing. But it was such a fun time, and they're such a good organization, and this is their 12th annual. But anyway, we stopped by, and we had a lot of fun, so let's take a look at all the good work the GSA at Fitchburg State does.
It's time to go Out with Joe.
On this edition of Out with Joe on New England Pride TV, we travel to Fitchburg State University and take a look at the Gay Straight Alliance. We caught up with Associate Director of Students and GSA Advisor Shane Franzen.
GSA is a student-run organization that's for our GLBTQ plus students and their allies. You do not have to be gay to come to the organization. We are open to everybody on campus, and we also open it up to anybody who is within the Fitchburg community. We would never tell anybody that they couldn't attend, because that's not what family does.
Fitchburg GSA has been providing safe space to LGBTQ students for over a quarter of a century. They meet weekly and average 25 to 35 students. Shane has been the advisor for 16 years, and we stopped by for the 12th annual drag show and race. It may be the biggest attraction for the year.
Because we put on activities events throughout the entire year, everything from transgendered vigil that we would have out on the quad to it's called a squishing event, which is kind of like speed squishing. So we also do all kinds of stuff all year long. This isn't the only thing that we do.
This year's theme
Tonight is our 12th annual drag show, and I guess the subtitle would be Willy Wonka and Her Drag Factory.
half the fun is deciding the theme.
Every year we choose a different theme. We've done Dungeons and Drag Queens. We've done the Queens of the Nile. So every year it has a different theme, and that's where the decorations and stuff come from.
All this magic doesn't happen by itself.
It's all run by the students. It's primarily the executive board, and then we have other students who are in GSA. But when it comes to actually putting the show on, we have students from our Fitchburg Activities Board, our fraternities and sororities come and help out. In fact, we have a couple alumni that have come back for the evening just to help out with the show.
But at the center you'll find Shane or,
Drag name Dutchie Divine.
depending on the day. Either one is proud to be here.
It's an honor and a privilege to be the advisor to the Gay Straight Alliance here.
Fitchburg GSA is a safe and welcoming place for all students.
Fitchburg State is a very, very safe campus. I actually think Fitchburg as a whole, the city, Lunenburg, Leominster, I actually think this area is very safe also.
The GSA is active all year and always moving forward.
We're in the process of launching a safe zone, train the trainer on campus that'll include our clubs, our organizations, faculty, staff. So it's a great, great program that we have here.
That it is. For more on Fitchburg GSA, find them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, as well as outwithjoe.com and newenglandpride.tv. For New England Pride TV, I'm Joe Mangiacotti.
We've come to the end of another episode of New England Pride TV, our one-year anniversary episode. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for writing into us and giving us ideas about segments that you would like to see. Today's show, we had some terrific guests. We'd like to thank Brian Bishop from Out Vets, who taught us a lot about his organization. We'd also like to take the time to thank Dr. Kenneth Peterson. You can look up on his website and find out more about him and what he's doing with his community outreach program. And we'd like to thank Joe Mangiacotti for being with us for a year. We'd like to say a big hello to Tina Billings, who is the backbone of this show. Without her, we wouldn't get half the stuff done that we need to get. And we're going to end by saying what we always say. Please don't be afraid to shine your light, because you might be lighting the way for someone in need. Take care, and thank you for supporting New England Pride TV.
Tune in, show us you've got New England Pride. Show us you've got New England Pride. Stand up, shout out, show us you got New England Pride. Show us you've got New England Pride. New England